The Yakuza demands perfection and hates mistakes. There's even a ritual called yubitsume, where you cut off your fingers as an apology for making serious mistakes.
What? So you mean to tell me if I spill a bowl of noodles, a bowl of ramen noodles, I gotta cut off my pinky finger to join? And you wonder why the numbers are dying down, buddy? Nobody is trying to join that, bro. What if I spilled the soy sauce? How Gen Z killed the Yakuza.
The Yakuza are, after all, one of the most infamous organized crime groups in the world. So how are they being killed by a bunch of phone-scrolling, TikTok dancing kids, most of whom have the attention span of a fish, and some haven't even finished high school? Well,
yeah, I mean, that's a good description. Do I have the attention span of a fish? This video is a little too long. I might have to speed it up.
I wouldn't say that Gen Zs are intentionally killing the Yakuza. They are sort of doing it by accident, though, at a time when the Yakuza are already weak. So this isn't first-degree murder, but more like manslaughter. The Yakuza's decline is evident from the numbers. At its height in the 1960s, the Yakuza had more than 180,000 members. That number is down to less than 20,000 at this point, and trending down still. But to explain how this happened, and what Gen Zs have anything to do with it, I need to reference the legal and historical context that led up to this. The Yakuza are Japan's most well-known organized crime syndicates. Similar in function to the Italian mafia or the Mexican...
The mob, you know what I'm saying? The police of America, you know, the Bloods, the Crips, and all that, yeah.
But with their own distinct cultural and operational differences. For example, the Yakuza have operated openly for much of their existence. They register businesses, maintain offices, and publish contact information. Many Yakuza members even carry business cards. They've also had a mixed reputation in Japan. To some, they seem like chivalrous outlaws, groups that, at least on the surface, protected the weak, upheld local order, and lived by strict moral codes.
That makes sense.
They even have a history of helping out their community at times of crisis, like how they helped to deliver supplies and with other disaster relief efforts.
So they're like not bad gang members like, you know what I'm saying, the thugs, you know, the real, just gun blinking down, hoodlum. No? Okay.
During the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. This is probably why Japanese societies have partly tolerated their open operation for some time. But there's no denying that they do break the laws. Depending on the Yakuza groups, they may profit from extortion and loan sharking to scams and political corruptions, to drugs and human trafficking, to even assault and murder. And
so some of them are really bad, and some of the stuff that they do is really bad, but not all of them, and they do some beneficial things for the community, for the country. Hey, bro, I was just in Japan recently, you know what I'm saying, for the first time. If y'all didn't know for some reason, I'm half Japanese, by the way. What did you watch? Did I come across any Yakuza members? I don't think so, bro. I mean, I did see a dude with a scar all the way down his head, you know, didn't question him. Yeah, if you're Yakuza for some reason watching this video, this is literally just for educational purposes only.
The Japanese government has steadily increased its crackdown on the Yakuza since the 1990s, passing laws such as the 1992 Anti-Boryokudan law.
What's that?
And intensifying their enforcement over time. Fast forward to today, most businesses are now forbidden from working with the Yakuza altogether. This has not only dried up many of Yakuza's revenue streams, but also made life practically difficult for Yakuza members, since they are blacklisted from businesses. For example, it is nearly impossible for Yakuza members to do simple things like opening bank accounts, renting apartments, or even getting phone plans. These legal crackdowns have significantly weakened the Yakuza, but it's not the only reason behind their decline. Along with this intensification of legal pressure is a shift in the economy of crime.
What do you mean?
If we look at the Yakuza from a business perspective, one of their long-standing competitive advantages has been violence. Now, in a stereotypical society, only the government has legal access to violence. And it presumably uses it for things like maintaining order.
Facts, especially in America, all right? If you go outside in America, the only person who's allowed to be violent is the police. And that's why some of these nerds who got bullied in school end up becoming police officers and start abusing their power. You're allowed to, you know, wield that baton and whoosh, instead of using a whip, you use a baton now.
Protecting borders and so on. Other members of society typically don't have access to violence. Businesses, for instance, can compete in all sorts of ways. Better products, cheaper services, clever marketing, but they can't physically attack each other, can't use violence. But the Yakuza can. And that allows them access to business models and markets that normal business don't.
Like
they
what?
can go into things like illegal gambling and prostitutions and loan sharking and other black markets.
Which those are actually pretty big issues in Japan. If anybody has ever been, you will know that, like, you know what I'm saying, the SW, process, you know what I'm saying, all that, gambling, drinking, alcohol, drugs.
Because
there is some of that stuff, you know,
force.
especially the women issue thing.
Course, but all things considered, having access to violence has traditionally been quite profitable for the Yakuza. But the world has changed. We've now entered the digital age and what's called the knowledge-based economy. The most valuable assets today aren't physical. Rather, they are intangible, like information, ideas, patent, data, attention, and code. This shift has a profound effect on the economic value of violence, because violence can arrange atoms, but not bits.
What does that mean?
And as such, it has virtually no direct effects in the digital realm. And as it happens, the types of crimes that are most profitable in the digital economies are increasingly virtual rather than physical. Back in the day, you used to be able to punch people in the face and take their wallets.
Right.
And that used
just
to be
basic
profitable.
stain gang, you know,
if
robbery.
You do that today, you'll probably just get a bunch of credit cards that will be locked the moment they are reported missing.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Maybe a phone that you can't use without Face ID. Crimes like
what was that voice over?
Crypto fraud, online identity theft, ransomware attacks are becoming more profitable than robbing people at gunpoint. Hacking into a bank, for example, is more profitable now than robbing the bank because the most valuable things are now stored in the bank's servers rather than its vaults. And in this new economy, violence doesn't scale very well, and it loses its edge by the days as the world continues to digitize. So in many ways, the Yakuza has been playing catch-up with the time to either scale their existing digital operations or venture into new ones. However, it's not an easy pivot for an organization built on physical violence to start relying on business models of crime where violence isn't as much of a leverage. So it's fair to say that the Yakuza are on the ropes. The law is squeezing them out of society, and the economy has shifted from under their feet. They should have their hands full at this point, but there's one more problem.
Which is what?
The Gen Zs. This is
what did we do?
Perhaps,
what did Gen Z do? Let me know.
Consequential, nonetheless. In fact, Gen Zs could very well be the one to put the final nail in their coffin. The problem with Gen Zs is regarding recruitment, because for the life of them, the Yakuza can't seem to figure out a way to get this
new
next
members.
generation.
Okay, so imagine, you know, your group is dying out, you know, there's not as many people left, and you need to recruit new members, but then the people you're recruiting are a bunch of TikTok dancers hitting the Renegade, and people like me making YouTube videos and reacting to videos. Nobody's gonna want that, man. So I guess the next generation of Yakuza members are a bunch of TikTokers.
Of young criminals to join them. This is not just a PR issue. It's an existential threat. Because for any criminal organization to survive,
you need people.
Young people who are the muscles that do the dirty work in the short term and carry out the legacy in the long term. But that's not happening right now.
Nobody wants to do that.
So that the Yakuza are in the process of aging into extinction. More than half of the Yakuza are older
Those tats
than 50
are fired
years old
up.
at this point, with an average age of 54 as of 2023.
Damn,
and
they
only
old.
about 5.4% of Yakuza members are currently in their 20s. Now, there are reasons why people in general...
I wonder how you even join. Like, do you have to get, like, initiated in some way? Do you got to do, like, I don't know, some type of, like, karate or, like, I don't know, judo, or have, like, a bamboo stick fight or something and then fight to the... Because in gang culture in America, you know what I'm saying, you got to get jumped in. I wonder if it's, like, a similar thing. Or maybe is it the tattoos that initiate you? I don't know. That's kind of interesting.
Are less interested in joining the Yakuza today, based on what we've discussed so far. For example, we mentioned that the Yakuza are heavily targeted by the government.
Okay.
To join the Yakuza is to be subjected to the same fate, and it's understandable why people don't want that. We also mentioned the dwindling value of violence in the digital economy of crimes. Therefore, there's less appeal.
Yeah, not as much cash to rob people for and stuff.
In order to get access to violence, because violence is not that necessary to commit digital crime.
Right.
But these reasons apply to everyone. There is a reason, however, that's uniquely relevant to Gen Z's disinterest in joining the Yakuza. And that has to do with culture. Japanese Gen Zs, like those of most parts of the developed world, are digital natives. They're very much used to having information and digital extensions of themselves.
Like that type of stuff. Yep.
That are instantly accessible through the devices in their pockets. Most of them probably got their Instagram accounts before their driver's license. And as such,
of
one
course.
can say that they are raised partly by the Japanese cultural environment, but also partly by the internet. As a result, they are a little different from their older generational counterparts. For example, they are more individualistic and value autonomy and flexibility. This marks a clear contrast with traditional aspects of Japanese culture that are more collectivistic and value group harmony, social cohesion, and established social norm. This contrast creates a generational tension that's observable across many aspects of Japanese society, but is especially pronounced in the world of crime. This is because the Yakuza is deeply rooted in traditional Japanese culture.
Oh, never mind.
It is collectivistic, where each member is expected to have absolute loyalty.
To have absolute large amounts of green tea and miso soup.
To the group and put the well-being of the Yakuza organization above their own. It also has a strict hierarchy and expects total obedience to superiors and suppresses individuality.
Okay, so like it's a gang shit, bro. They be on a gang shit. They be on a slaughter gang, you know.
This includes the Gen Z's criminals. These young criminals want to assert their individuality. They want to express themselves and their opinions, but they can't do that if they join the Yakuza.
Because they're following a big, you know, the bigger fish. You know, you got to be the bigger koi fish in the koi pond. Am I saying that because of Japan? Yes.
But the Yakuza demands perfection and hates mistakes. There's even a ritual called yubitsume, where you cut off your fingers as an apology for making serious mistakes.
What? So you mean to tell me if I spill a bowl of noodles, a bowl of ramen noodles, I gotta cut off my pinky finger to join? And you wonder why the numbers are dying down, buddy? Nobody is trying to join that, bro. What if I spill the soy sauce, okay? Am I getting my pinky toe severed? No, why would I ever want to join that? That is incredibly crazy.
These probably like their fingers as much as anyone.
Yeah.
So they're not super stoked about that. And above all, Gen Z criminals want to commit crimes, and they want to do it right away. In the Yakuza, new members are typically required to endure long periods of low-status apprenticeships.
What do you gotta do? Just be a dishwasher? You gotta be a dishwasher, the udon boy?
Which they perform mostly menial tasks. So if Gen Zs join the Yakuza, they'll probably be bowing 20 times a day and serving tea for years before they can begin
why would I want to do that? Nobody wants to
criminal projects in any significant ways. For a generation that are used to instant gratification, this is probably too long of a wait for their attention span to handle. Additionally, unlike the Yakuza who have to play catch-up with the digital economy, Gen Zs are born into it. What feels foreign to the Yakuza
they gotta learn
feels just like home to the Gen Zs. So instead
I haven't heard any real benefits to a Gen Zer for even joining the Yakuza. As crazy as that sounds, like, what are the perks, okay? If you join, like, do you get certain privileges? Do you get a certain amount of, like, money every, like, what is, you know? Because if I'm getting my fingers severed if I spill some tea, or if I'm not bowing 100 times a day, you know, I know what's going to happen to me, all right? I might be swimming with the fishes, or I might be getting eaten, you know, alive. But what do I get if I join or do something good? Are y'all going to pat me on the head and call me good boy or something? Like, what's the...
Joining the Yakuza and help them catch up, Gen Zs probably prefers the faster route of just doing it themselves.
Yeah,
they're thinking,
it's going to work.
You know, why would I need the Yakuza? I have a smartphone and I've got Wi-Fi at home. The ChatGPT subscription is only $20 and DeepSeek is free. If I want to commit digital crimes, I'd rather do it with my college roommates than with these old people who just want to cut all my fingers every time my code doesn't work. Now, it's not like Gen Z criminals all operate alone. They still commit organized crimes, but the way they organize is completely different. There's a new term coined by Japan's National Police Agency called tokuryu. It describes a new kind of organized criminal phenomenon that started happening in the last few years. It consists mostly of young people and seems to be filling the power vacuum left behind by the declining Yakuza. The word tokuryu combines tokume, which means anonymous, and ryudo.
Anonymous fluid? Don't tell me that's what I think it is. Are we driving by and giving motherfuckers anonymous fluid and putting our anonymous fluids inside of their beverages, inside of their food? What is going on here? What is this anonymous fluid crime?
It means fluid. And that name is quite fitting. The tokuryu groups have no rigid hierarchy, no lifelong loyalty.
What do they do?
No rituals. Many of their members don't even know each other. Instead, they're recruited for specific jobs or tasks on an ad hoc basis, almost like gig economy but for crime. Tokuryu recruit mostly online and operate through encrypted messaging apps and social media platforms. This allows a degree of flexibility in their structure and some anonymity for their members that make them quite elusive to law enforcement.
So some new, criminal activities.
Gen Z criminals prefer the tokuryu over the Yakuza. In fact, Tokuryu's recruitment pitch is so on brand for the Gen Z stereotype that it almost looks like a parody. No rules, no commitment, no delayed gratification. It just sign up online, show up, do the thing, get paid.
So do you just like go on Zoom and commit crimes?
Uber Eat, Tinder swipe, and TikTok scroll your way through a career in crime. Now, in case this is starting to sound like a good side hustle anime at this point, I should say, please don't go join the tokuryu.
Yeah.
Because, well, it's illegal, first of all, and secondly, that's kind of the whole trick. Tokuryu uses this curated messaging around quick cash and low commitment as a bait to recruit new members, sometimes specifically targeting unsuspecting youth who are looking for a quick buck online. These are called yamibaito, or part-time job in Japan. They're almost like a gateway drug for crimes. Once you're in, it can become hard to leave. You might get hooked by it, or some groups might use blackmail or threats to keep you in the game. So what started as a one-off gig can turn into a full-blown trap. In any case, the tokuryu are winning the recruitment game and poised to replace Yakuza as the dominant force of organized crimes in Japan. Tokuryu's arrest outpaced that of Yakuza last year, for example, with more than 10,000 people arrested linked to the tokuryu and only about 8,000 linked to the Yakuza. Now, one of the things that make the Gen Z problem so frustrating for the Yakuza is that in a way, this isn't an enemy that they can fight. The Yakuza can fight the police. They can fight a rival
It just seems like something that's dying off as time goes on. I mean, like, it is just an old head group. No disrespect, it is older people. You know, as he said, the average age of a Yakuza member is 54 years old. And if you do want to, you know what I'm saying, keep your thing alive, you got to get, you know, the younger people on board. But why would somebody really want to join? I haven't heard any of the benefits. Do we get health care? Do we get life insurance? You know, do we get any type of, you know, 401k match benefits or anything like that? I don't know. So why would I join, you know? But that was how Gen Z killed the Yakuza. I guess it's not in a literal sense. It's more like, oh, not enough people are joining. A lot of Gen Z motherfuckers want to, you know what I'm saying, hit the... and things of that nature, you know, like, yeah. So with that being said, wait, why would you even want Gen Z members in your group anyways? Like, nobody would want somebody like me. Like, bro, huh? Anyways, that's gonna do it for today's video. Make sure you like, comment down below, make sure you subscribe. Please subscribe. Join the Discord. Yeah, as I said, it's love hello, I love you, and I'm out.